Legacy Maker, the All Sports
The
Network.
place is here and the time is now. Let's take it round for round. And people gather round. Let's see who can win the crown. All the marbles involved. Football, baseball, or golf. Who's dominating the hoops? Who's talking false or the truth? Yeah, come and show me your war face. I'll show you my war face. No holds barred, so for your sake, you better show up in good shape. Valuable information is key to your domination. So focus on preparation. Online is your reputation. Yeah, it's one-on-one. You and me, ain't no fear in me. You will see. When it comes to this, you'll be wearing the number 23. In debate, I hold my weight, cause these sports I'm attached to it. Your legacy, get ready, cause I'm gonna set a match to it. Hey. Burn 'em, fire, 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 burn 'em. Fire, 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 burn 'em. Fire, 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 legacy on fire, 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 burn 'em. Fire, 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 legacy on fire, 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 burn 'em. Fire, 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 legacy on fire.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 26 of Legacy on Fire here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network. We got a good one for you tonight because there's so much that's happened in the last week. Just so much greatness in the sports world has happened in the last week. Hey, just in the last 3 days, there's been so much craziness going on. I haven't been able to keep my head on straight. You know, this is kind of one of our best times of the year. Everybody gets super duper excited about the NFL offseason. And if your team is making moves, great. If your team just chilling, waiting for the draft, that's what some teams are. So once again, everybody, thank you all. I got my wonderful panel with me today. Let's go ahead and break it down for you. First of all, we got our man who's hoping that Deshaun Watson potentially could be coming to town, Mr. James Brown. How you doing, James?
What's going on, man? Another week. Let's get it in.
Yes, let's get it in. And then a man that's trying to figure out what's next, and I'm pretty sure he's feeling the same way I feel right now. What's next with his team, Mr. Cody Stewart. What's going on, brother?
Hey, happy 316 day. Can I get a hell yeah?
Yeah! Hell yeah! Hey, I'll give you a title belt. How about that one?
Hey, let's do it. I just need 2 brewskis, man. You know?
Let's get it going. And of course, one of the hardest working men in the show business. He does so much. Sometimes I don't even know if he's coming or going, but he's one of the best in the game. One half of the team of the In and Out podcast / show here on the Legacy Makers Network. Mr. Robb Johnson. How you doing, Rob?
Hello.
And of course, it's been a while. Good to have him back in the building. The other half of In and Out here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network, the man, myth, and the absolute legend, our man from Satoba Media, Mr. Drew Willingham. How you doing, sir?
Doing great. My ankles feel a whole lot better than Carson Wentz's probably, so I'm ready to get this thing going.
Damn.
Hey, treating Carson early. We've been treating Carson pretty bad here in the last couple of weeks, and it looks like it's not going to stop now. All right, everybody, let's get the show popping. And, you know, we start off with quick takes today. We don't have a ton of topics, but we got a lot of lengthy stuff to talk about in these topics. So the clock might not even come into play today. First one we've got the GOAT, ladies and gentlemen. He is making a return. The news came out on Sunday night that Thomas Edward Brady said, you know what? Them kids. I am coming back. Tom Brady gave it 2 months. I guess his sons were just yelling too much. He was like, you know what? I ain't got time for this, man. He didn't even give it to the offseason. Thomas Brady is coming back. So that changes the whole complexity. A lot of people is like, what are the Bucs are going to do about quarterback? Well, guess what? No need to fear. Tom Brady is here. All right, let's start this one off right. James, I know you're probably the one that didn't want to hear this news. So we're going to start with you first. How do you feel about Tom Brady unretiring and coming back?
Definitely not a good feeling, man. You know, I definitely thought this would be the first time the NFC South would be up for grabs for us in a while. But, you know, Brady's back in the fold. Always tough playing him. The Falcons, I think, are yet to get a win over Brady in Tampa Bay. So we'll see if things change this year. But, man, definitely not looking forward to that matchup. I mean, always a great opponent, great competitor. We'll see what happens this year. But I didn't like it.
Not one bit. Cody
Not at
Stewart,
all.
what are your thoughts on this bad boy, man?
I mean, it was one of those things where you thought, like, was he being for real? Like, was he really going to retire? And then, of course, in Tom Brady fashion, it's almost like he had to outdo the Aaron Rodgers news that he's going to come back for the Packers, and Russell Wilson getting traded to the Broncos. Tom Brady said, you know what? I'm going to break Twitter all by myself, and he did that. I mean, look. The best quarterback to ever play. If I was an NFC South fan of anybody but the Bucs, I would be pissed right now. But hey, my team doesn't have to play the Buccaneers next year, so I'm happy he's back.
Yeah, this team, we do have to play him in Tampa Bay, so that would be see. Robb Johnson, what are your thoughts, man? The man, myth, and the legend is back. What are your thoughts on Tom Brady coming back?
We all knew he was coming back. I mean, I don't know what the shock is. We knew he was coming back. I think he just needed some time to get some things straight. A lot of people thought about San Francisco, but I just feel like Kyle Shanahan is the type of coach that wants to prove that what he did with Trey Lance, he can actually go through with that. When it comes to Tom Brady, let me just give you something quick. Tom Brady has 84,520 yards. If he plays till 50, if he averages 3,096 yards, he'll be the first quarterback ever to get to 100,000. I crunched some numbers. For him to get to 1,000 touchdown passes, he would have to average 75.2 touchdowns a season, which is he's not going to do that. But if he can average 35.2 for the next 5 years, he'll get to 800 touchdowns. So I think that he definitely has a reason to come back, and I just wish that everybody would, embrace the guy. I mean, he's great. I just think that a lot of people out here aren't great and can't embrace greatness because they're not great themselves. So, you're just mad at greatness because you're not great yourself.
I like that one, Rob. That's a good one, Rob. That's a really good one. All right, my man, Mr. Drew Willingham, what are your thoughts on the GOAT making a return?
I agree with everything everybody said, but I'm going to add this. If you look back on what he made last year, his base salary for last year was right at $1 million. Even though they don't need the money, why would you walk away from $8.9 million? That's why he came back. I would come back from $8.9 million. You're not going to make that much more. He probably could make that money from retirement with the things he has lined up. But to play football, come back, get paid that much money, and to have fun with your guys, potentially get one last ring at the age of 45. You said you were going to play till 45. It didn't shock me. That's why I agree with what everybody else said. Didn't really shock me too much. I figured he'd come back. He had 1 year left on his deal, and maybe he wants to go to San Francisco next year when his contract ends to play with Shanahan. You never know. That could be in the back deck this whole time.
That's why I'm interested.
I might end it early on that one.
I'm just intrigued to see where this goes. I mean, it's Tom Brady. So the Bucs immediately their odds went from I think 20-1 to 10-1. So I mean, right there alone, people are already excited. Rob, what do you got, brother?
Also, let me say this. I'm not saying that it's going to get to proportions like it did in Indianapolis, but the Patriots have got to be thinking to themselves, what did we do? Because I've been telling you guys that I do not believe in Mac Jones. And I think that he's going to completely fall on his face. And you see how strong Buffalo is right now? They're going to have a stranglehold that division for a long time. So what I'm saying, folks, is that I think Bill Belichick this time bit off a little more than he can chew by getting rid of the quarterback who essentially made him a Hall of Famer. He was already great with the Giants as far as a coordinator. But as far as a head coach, Tom Brady took him to that top echelon. So I think that the Patriots in the next few years are going to regret it because I think Brady's going to come out and have a hell of a season.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to go to work. So it's going to be interesting to see what Thomas Brady does for year 23, his Jordan year, ladies and gentlemen. The next topic, man. I know we got a lot of baseball fans in this group right here. Very excited. Baseball is back, ladies and gentlemen. The MLB is set to return April the 7th. At least that's the initial date that we've been hearing. The free agency has been crazy. Chris Bryant signed with the Rockies today. So it's like the landscape is starting to change. It's kind of gotten a little bit of a backseat kind of to the NFL, with everything going on. But baseball is back. So I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on the baseball season? And I'm going to start with the man who's coming into his 5th season of play here. The knees seem to be ready to go. Drew, what are your thoughts on baseball coming back, brother?
I'm just glad I'm a part-time guy and just plug and play. I can't play full-time anymore, man. But these guys that are in the off season, I'm just glad we finally have baseball back just to begin with, because it looked like it was doom and gloom for a little bit. Freddie Freeman is on the move for Atlanta. That's a little bit of sad news for me as an Atlanta fan. You can't really see it behind this TV back here, but I have the world champion baseball because, like my man Robb Johnson, even though we kind of have to be sideline fans and not be too loud about it, on this one, I'm going to say Atlanta is the champs. I'm happy about that. We'll see what happens this year. But with the pickup of Olsen, I do like that at first base. If you're gonna plug in somebody else and save a little bit of money on the cap right there, I do like that. But we're all gonna miss Freddie in Atlanta. I'm just glad the baseball's back, I'll be honest with you.
Now, speaking of that, Robb Johnson, you are Atlanta Braves fan on that end, but the Freddie Freeman situation is a little bit sad for most Atlanta fans. But what are your thoughts? Major League Baseball coming back. I know you were excited about it. What you got going on, brother?
I mean, I'm not sad. I'm not getting paid. I'm not getting paid millions of dollars. I'm not sad. He's gonna get paid regardless. I frankly don't give a damn. Too little, too late for me. Rob Manfred needs to be gone. Baseball would be better once he's gone. You have just guys who have you don't have the star power in baseball anymore. I'm sorry. You look back at the old days, Derek Jeter, even though he was a great player, he wasn't the greatest player ever, but he had star power. Barry Bonds, you had a bunch of players in the 90s, 2000s. There's no star power. You could see a lot of these guys could walk into a room and you wouldn't know who the hell they were. Baseball has to do a lot better job of its marketing. Baseball has to do a lot better job of making the rules better. I have a lot of suggestions for that. Until Rob Manfred is gone, I love the game of baseball. I always have. But until Rob Manfred's gone, I frankly can't get excited. I mean, April 1st is going to come. We're probably going to all celebrate opening day. I get that. And then you have the situation with the Yankees and the Mets where players could potentially miss time because they're not vaccinated. I mean, that's just crazy. They're outdoors. They played all last year. They've been playing through the pandemic. I just don't understand it. So, right now I'm just frustrated with baseball, and I can't get excited about April 7th.
All right, Cody, what are your thoughts here? Baseball is back, man. What are you thinking?
I mean, I'm happy it's back, but as a Yankees fan, just seeing the trade that they just made for Josh Donaldson from the Twins, it makes you scratch your head because I understand that, I'm bringing Bryce Harper into this because I'm going to get to the point, but Bryce Harper wanted to sign with the Yankees a couple years ago, but then he ended up going to the Phillies because the Yankees didn't want to bring out the checkbook for him. But yet the Yankees say, you know what, I'll be on the hook for the rest of Josh Donaldson's contract for the next 2 or 3 years. Donaldson's like 35 years old, and he's getting paid like $30 million a year. So the Yankees would rather pay this aging player that amount of money instead of giving Bryce Harper, who is very young and would still continue to grow as a player, didn't want to give him the money. So it just makes me scratch my head. The offseason has been horrible for the Yankees.
James, what are your thoughts on baseball coming back, brother?
I mean, it's good that it's back. The players will get their chance to make their money this year. I'm glad they got an agreement done. But I kind of got to agree with Rob, man. Baseball's kind of lost its luster over the years. It's kind of one of those things where it kind of fades to the background now. I mean, I believe most people probably just tune in for the World Series a lot at this point, or big-time games. But, there's really, like Rob said, there's not a good marketing scheme when it comes to the league right now. A lot of people don't really know the star players of today unless they're diehard fans. Baseball's got to find a way to get their fans back engaged, get its eye back on baseball. And I feel like maybe these moves are a part of that, a start of that. Like you said, we've seen a lot of moves, a lot of trades, a lot of signings going down this offseason. And that could be to try to garner back some fan interest. But like Rob said, I think they definitely have a ways to go to make sure that baseball gets back kind of to where their pedestal where it used to be. So we'll see what happens.
You know what I'm interested in myself is, for especially those people who listened to the World Series the last, 20 years. Joe Buck is gone to ESPN. Like who's gonna be the voice of like the World Series? I'm intrigued to see who that person is. They got a lot of great baseball people out there in the world who've done like a lot of really good things. So I'm just intrigued to see who's gonna take that spot, y'all. I don't know about y'all, but I'm really intrigued about that.
Hey, I just want to add this to it with you bringing in the whole Joe Buck and Troy Aikman and everybody leaving. I'd said something on Twitter the other day that I think, number one, a perfect combo for the football world on Fox would be you throw the bag at Mike Tirico, you bring him to Fox, and you add Nate Burleson with him. Nate is freaking awesome. So that combo right there, as far as Fox Sundays for football, that would be awesome. And then Tirico can also do baseball as well. So I just think if Fox really wants to keep it going, throw the bag at Tirico, man.
Tirico. I bet Tirico's solid. You can't go wrong with Tirico. I would like to see that happen. I mean, he's already proven that, when Al Michaels is not there, he steps in on Sunday night. I can definitely see him moving into that full-time gig, so I would be very intrigued to see if that's something that does happen. Yes.
Hey, real quick. Yes, sir. Cody, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. I don't understand this obsession with Bryce Harper.
Oh.
When he left Washington, let me finish. When he left Washington, they won a championship. He's not a good leader. He's in Philadelphia. They haven't been to the playoffs. I understand it's an individual game a lot of times, and he puts up great numbers. But let's just be all honest, folks. The MVP is just fraudulent in baseball. It's fraudulent. I mean, you got a guy in the Angels winning the MVP. The Angels haven't been to the playoffs in how long? Come on, man. I mean, the Yankees, for me, are spending smarter, and they're paying people smarter. I like Donaldson. I think he's going to have a hell of a year. I think the Yankees lucked out. I think the Yankees lucked out by not getting that headache. Bryce Harper is a headache, okay? And I'm just sick and tired of people giving this guy so much credit. He's not a leader. He's never going to be that guy. Philadelphia overspent for this guy. And I think the Yankees lucked out big time. Trust me, Cody, in the next 10 years, you're going to come back and thank me.
Drew, I saw
the Nationals didn't win the World Series until after Bryce Harper left, so I got to give him that, okay? So they won the year after he left. That first year he was in Philadelphia, they won. So I got to at least have his back on that part. Other than that, I mean, come on.
That's still funny to me. That's still funny to me.
I was at a Nationals game on a Sunday when they were playing, I believe it was Colorado. He didn't hustle to first base. And once you do that for me one time, when I don't see you hustle one time, I have a little bit of issue with you. I'm sorry.
Well, Rob, if that's the case, then you're going to hate 75% of the players.
Go ahead, Cody. What'd you say?
I just
Cody,
said.
But what I'm saying is, Cody, listen. This is what I'm saying though. When you are supposed to be the face of the game, and you're supposed to do things the right way, I'm giving an example. I've been a little upset at LeBron James. LeBron James has been quitting on defense. I called him out for that. When you are the star of the league and you are the number one player, you've always got to be on top of your game. I'm sorry.
Right. I just want to say this real quick. Listen here. What you're saying, like he has to be the face of the game. Well, none of that matters. Like y'all could sit here and say I have to be the role model for everybody in the world. If I don't want to be the role model for everybody in the world, I'm not going to be. That doesn't affect his play. I mean, you're just saying if he's not hustling, now the next generation isn't going to want to hustle the first. Who cares about that?
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you this then, right? I got you. But what I'm asking is this. When Derek Jeter played for the Yankees, wasn't he not the leader? Wasn't he not the standard? Did you ever hear anything about Derek Jeter? Did you ever see him have a lack of effort? No. Bryce Harper's not a Yankee material.
Hey, Rob.
Period.
Rob, there's 24 other guys on the team that can be a leader. Bryce don't have to be a leader, bro. Just bring that bat. That's all we care about. All right.
Bring that bat.
I'm hearing excuses, Cody. Come on now.
How is that an excuse? I know we're getting
Hey, we're going way too far.
Look, I just want to say, I know that we're getting too far from everything. I just want to simply say, Rob, you're talking about attributes that you want from somebody in the locker room. I'm looking for on the field, because at the end of the day, you could have the least toxic locker room in any league and still miss out on the playoffs. Doesn't matter.
What about you, Drew? I see you raising
That's not always true, Cody. You know that. You know that those Yankee teams had camaraderie back then. You know those Yankee teams had togetherness. Bryce Harper can sometimes be very dividing in the locker room, but we can agree to.
Go ahead,
I
Drew.
appreciate it, though, my man. Appreciate it.
Go ahead, Drew.
So I'm conflicted. I hear both of y'all, but from somebody like I'm not a Thomas Edward Patrick Brady, the second of this beer and chicken league that I play in, but they do play Major League Baseball rules. So we are 25-team league. It just from somebody from experience who's played all his life when he was a kid, then took some time off and came back. It takes more than one person to be a leader on the team, Rob. One person can't lead the entire team. Just like when we have legacy makers, not one like Darrell, you are the man, but it takes more than one person to lead a
I'm
big
hearing
group.
excuses.
You can be a small group and have one leader, but if you're going to have a 25, if you're going to have a 25, hang on, if you're going to have a 20, hang on, if you're going to have a 25-person team, you got to have.
Listen, we go to the next topic.
He'll continue to be a chump. He'll continue to lose. Keep making excuses for Bryce Harper. Continue to make excuses for Bryce Harper.
We'll be debating this till we turn blue in the face. We know one thing. If Bryce Harper doesn't win a ring here in his career, then we'll talk about him the way we talk about Dan Marino and Charles Barkley. We'll get to that point when we get to that point. Now, next one. Here we go. We got football, ladies and gentlemen. Football is been swinging pretty good here in the last week, and we got some good stuff going on here where we got free agency. It's been wild. It's been crazy. A lot of moves have been made, a lot of interesting moves. Some person decided to pay Christian Kirk a lot of money, and it's messed up the wide receiver market big time. Looks like we're not getting Devontae Adams. We probably going to have to trade him. Thank you, Christian Kirk and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, with that being said, we're going to get into our favorite, what moves did we like the most, what moves that we thought were pretty good. Now, there's going to be no time limit on this. We're just going to kind of talk about this bad boy because it's just too much to try to put a time limit on this. Now, with all that being said, I'm going to start this one off with James. James, what are your thoughts here? Your favorite signing so far, and then some of the best moves that you've seen so far.
I'd have to say favorite signing so far would definitely have to be the Chargers going out and solidifying their secondary with J.C. Jackson from the Patriots. I mean, you're talking about getting a corner that can play man, that can play zone, an all-around guy that can fit your scheme. He can come in, definitely upgrade that secondary, and you're in a division now where you have to face off against Patrick Mahomes twice a year, Russell Wilson twice a year, and you still have to keep a lookout for Derek Carr and the Raiders twice a year. I mean, that's a great signing to go along with their defense. They've made some real good moves, bringing in Khalil Mack as well via trade. The Chargers are going to be a formidable opponent this year, especially if everybody can stay healthy and stay on the field. Some other good moves, really the AFC West, man. They've been stockpiling guys, it seems. I mean, the Raiders found money to bring on Chandler Jones, another pass rusher, opposite Max Crosby. We had where Denver brought in Randy Gregory to bookend him with Bradley Chubb. So, man, it's been a lot of good moves that we're seeing, real competitive teams looking like we're going to have on the field this year. So I'm definitely excited.
Yeah, the AFC West looks like it's going to be very tempting over this next season. Drew, what are your thoughts on favorite free agent signings? Do you have a favorite one in particular?
I mean, I guess one of the hottest ones is Mitch Trubisky going to Pittsburgh. I mean, that's really, really good that they were able to fill that void with Big Ben leaving. I don't like some of the trades that's been going on, especially for the Washington Commanders. I mean, I know it's not a free agent move, but we can get into that, a whole different time. But I will say that Mitch Trubisky is my favorite one as far as if you're going to plug somebody in who had a chance to go into Buffalo and learn a few different things, see how Josh Allen kind of came in and took it a little bit more seriously than he did, in my opinion, and how he started off with it. I feel like he's going to take this second chance and run with it a lot better than Carson did in Indianapolis last year. He's going to get a third shot, so hopefully those ankles can hold himself right.
Yeah, I'm still trying to, Drew, I'm not going to lie to you. I've been tripping over that for the last year. The man sprung both. I never heard anybody say, yeah, I got both ankles. Not maybe one, but never both. And that was the first time I ever heard it. I know it happens, but it just, you don't hear it often. Rob, favorite move so far and moves that you've liked so far?
I think this is a very easy one. If you really think about it, you think about the man who career has 115.5 sacks. I'm talking about Von Miller going to the Buffalo Bills, a team that already had a decent defense. Now you add on Von Miller. You go from Los Angeles to Buffalo. I don't think a lot of people really do that a lot, but that shows the type of man Von Miller is. He wants to bring a championship to Buffalo. I think that is a very impressive move. Also, Zadarius Smith going back to Baltimore. We talk about Mitchell Trubisky, and I like Mitch. Mitch is a decent quarterback, but Mitch is not the answer in Pittsburgh. Baltimore is by far gotten better this offseason. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to continue to build that line. We don't know what's going to happen with Cleveland. Their quarterback situation is definitely in the air. They said today that they want an adult at quarterback, which is not a joke. It's serious. And I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to look at it as being funny, because it's not funny. Because Baker Mayfield is not an adult right now. He's not acting like one. You come out and make a statement, and you haven't even done anything in that franchise. So I've never had respect for him anyway. And I definitely don't have respect for him now after that statement. You're crying. Stop crying so much. But like I said, Von Miller, Zadarius Smith, I like those moves. I actually like the fact that the Dallas Cowboys got rid of Randy Gregory in a sense, because I thought that was a little bit too much money. I think that what the Cowboys are doing is they're making an excuse to get Micah Parsons on the defensive line. So now you'll have DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah on the both bookends. I think that Denver, especially a state where marijuana is legal, they might run into some issues with Randy Gregory. And I'm not trying to cast anything on him. I'm being serious. Addiction is a serious problem. And I fear that by him going to Denver, there could be some issues, but they fully guaranteed his contract, which I think is a problem. And we've already seen the AFC West have some issues coming from last year. So I think that it was a good subtraction for the Dallas Cowboys in that sense. I also think that when I look at some other teams, I would probably say Jacksonville made some good moves. Christian Kirk, I believe that he could get some camaraderie with what's his name, Trevor Lawrence. I'll also say, I think him and Trevor Lawrence can have some good camaraderie here and there. Overall, I think there's been a lot of good moves so far. A lot of teams have been doing a lot of good things. I think that we're in store for a good rest of the free agency market and to the draft. But I definitely think Von Miller is that number one player for me getting signed to Buffalo.
All right. Cody, your thoughts on free agency so far, best moves and your favorite one?
So I have two moves that I think are great moves for these teams, and they kind of gone under the radar in my opinion. At least I haven't really heard a lot of people talking about it, but at the same time, it's so many big moves that's been going on. Of course, some things are going to kind of go under the rug. My first move is, and I'm sorry, James, Russell Gage going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I really feel that with Tom Brady coming back, obviously having Mike Evans on one side, Chris Godwin on the other, more than likely Rob Gronkowski is going to come back. I mean, you got Russell Gage almost kind of playing the Antonio Brown role, which is huge for them. We saw how Tampa Bay was last year due to injuries, due to Antonio Brown having his blow up on the sideline and ultimately being released by the Bucs late on in the season. So I think Russell Gage, who had very good production with the Atlanta Falcons, is going to be able to go down there to Tampa Bay. He doesn't have to be the number 1 or 2 option. He can be the 4th option and still produce at a very high level. So I think that was a very good move for both parties. My second move that I feel like has gone under the radar and is a perfect move is the Jaguars getting Brandon Scherff on the offensive line. We all know that in the NFL, the main way to win is keeping your franchise quarterback upright. And adding Brandon Scherff, who I believe is a 5-time Pro Bowler, had a hell of a career with the Washington Commanders. I think he's going to be able to go down to Jacksonville and just shore up that offensive line. So I feel like Jacksonville is doing a very good job keeping their franchise quarterback protected.
Yeah, the free agency has been so fast and furious. I think sometimes we kind of forget, maybe who got picked who and who grabbed who. I know I've been looking at it consistently on my end. And I'll ask everybody this question as we're going through on this one. Is there one that you don't like? Anybody got anyone that they don't like?
Christian Kirk.
Yeah, Christian Kirk's ruining everything right now. I definitely agree with that. Rob, do you have one?
Definitely Carson Wentz to Washington.
Oh yeah, that's I don't know. Drew, you got one on that?
I'm sorry, James, but dude, you guys need to pick it up. You've only signed the kicker. That's what I don't like. You need to sign more. You need to get busy. Wait, he's a good kicker, but you need more than just a kicker, my man. You need to sign more. Boots to asses, the rock on him, okay? Do it. Sign some stuff, sign people, get them in the building, and get to the ship one more time and beat Thomas Edward Patrick Brady, the second in the NFC Championship game, and send him home. Sorry.
What about you, James?
I mean, I love the fire and passion that Drew has, but what I don't think Drew realizes is that Atlanta's in a holding position until Deshaun Watson makes his decision, whatever it's going to be, because they have to figure out the cap and everything that's going to go along with that. So would I love for us to be a little bit more active? Of course. I would love to see Atlanta signs this person. Atlanta got better this way. Atlanta got better. Atlanta didn't lose another wide receiver. I would love to see that. But unfortunately, they threw their head into the Deshaun Watson ring, and we're not going to see any moves in Atlanta until that's decided. I've come to that realization. It is what it is.
Before I go back to Rob, James, we know that Julio Jones got released. Any chance he comes back to Atlanta?
I would like for him to come back to Atlanta, but it has to be on a team-friendly deal, and I feel like it only happens if there is a change at the quarterback position.
Gotcha. Rob?
I actually like the kicker being signed back because you need kicking. I've seen a lot of instances where a lot of not players, but fans will come out and say, well, we don't really care about kickers that. Well, ask the Buffalo Bills about that. Ask a lot of other teams. Ask the Minnesota Vikings, who lost playoff games because of a kicker. The Falcons have a hell of a kicker. But let me also say this when it comes to Julio Jones. I don't think he's going back to the Falcons. I think that there are a list of teams. I've heard of some teams, possibly the Washington Commanders, the New England Patriots. Who else was there? It was the Philadelphia Eagles, possibly Dallas, and the one that I'm intrigued by the most would probably be Kansas City. I think that he could be one of those third receivers where he could go up against one of those backup cornerbacks. When I look at the whole landscape of just, like I said, the free agency, I'm going to have to go back to Cody. Cody, you made an excellent point, sir. And it makes you look at Washington. They got rid of Trent, who was a Hall of Famer at left tackle, and now they get rid of Brandon Sheriff. That was anchors on your offensive line. I think that addition is going to help the Jacksonville Jaguars so much. Cody, great point, because of the fact that they'll be able to run the ball now effectively, and Trevor Lawrence will have the ability to run the ball himself because Trevor Lawrence is a very athletic quarterback. So, Cody, yes, you're right. That offensive signing by the Jacksonville Jaguars is going very underrated. And I also think Moses going to the I think it's the Ravens. I think
Ravens, yeah.
I think that's a good pick.
Yeah,
trying to get back closer to home.
Yeah,
Cody,
that's very good because Baltimore is building that lineup, guys.
I just want to add, just talking about Washington real quick and their offensive line. They got to figure out some things because Brandon Sheriff obviously is no longer there. He's with Jacksonville, and they just cut Eric Flowers today as well. So that's two starters on the offensive line that is now gone. That's two holes they're going to need to fill. So got to kind of figure out what Washington's going to do from here on out.
Yeah, I will say this.
Do they go offensive line, Cody? Offensive line, Cody, and what offensive line did you get?
I mean, at 11 for them, the perfect big board for Washington or how the draft falls is Derek Singletary falling to 11 for them to get another cornerback. That'd be a splash move. But honestly, if one of the big name, like if a Charles Cross falls to 11, maybe Kenyon Green from, I believe it's Texas A&M falls. And one of my favorite guys in the draft that a lot of people have him going late first. I can see him going middle first to the Eagles. I think I have him at 16. It's Zion Johnson, offensive guard from Boston College. That dude he's going to be so good in the NFL.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Cody, he's a Hall of Famer waiting to happen. That's a great point. He's a Hall of Famer waiting to happen. He's a hell of a player.
So when we went to ACC Media Day, we got a chance to talk to him, and you can just tell like his intelligence level of the game. And we knew that he was going to be good this season. We just didn't know how good, and he proved it. And now he's more likely going to be a first-round pick. One thing I will say about Drew's favorite team, the Commies, I know he likes to call them the Commies, they should be very happy that they were able to get McKissick back from Buffalo, because Buffalo kind of lost on that one, because McKissick, to be honest with you, has been the glue that's held that running game up the last couple of years. Yes, Gibson is, the highly touted player. He's the man. That's the guy that they push. But who was there for them catching the ball out the backfield, making all these great plays? It's none other than J.D. McKissick. So they should be – when I saw that today, I said, man, Washington got extremely lucky to be able to get him back. I thought that was a really
Can I jump in real quick with back with what you were saying about the guys that are leaving, Rob? And I'm going to go back with one thing. I'm going to give a shout out to Russ Telefaro. Eric Flowers, he was trash before he got there. What are we really missing when Eric Flowers got? All right, he came from the Giants. Sorry, Cody, but he's trash. All right, why are we getting upset about Eric Flowers spilled milk? All right, now 2 with Sheriff, we already knew he was going to get paid. He deserved to get paid. Are you going to waste all that money into cap space on one guy, or are you going to try to invest and get multiple pieces within the offense? We need another guy for Terry. We need another guy so there can be a decoy. We need more pieces within the offense than just one guy getting paid. I really like him going to Jacksonville because they need help. And they've got, in my opinion, they did a lot of moves, but he's not going to be the biggest splash that they can really make for that team. They need a lot more help, as we saw last year, than just Sheriff, okay?
Cody?
I just want to say to that point, if all teams went with that logic as far as the offensive line goes, it'd be some horrible play going on. No quarterbacks would be protected. I can guarantee you right now, the Colts would never let Quentin Nelson get away. That would never happen. And Washington should not have let Brandon Sheriff get away. It's just that simple.
Rob and James.
Go ahead, Rob.
Rob?
I mean, if he can't hear, I'm going to go ahead and go.
Well, let me just say, I understand that, Eric Flowers actually played pretty decent football. He wasn't great, but he played decent football. You have to re-sign Terry McLaurin, but what kind of confidence does Terry McLaurin have when they bring in a Carson Wentz? I mean, I've said this and I'm saying it again. He does not want to turn into Andre Johnson. Okay? Terry McLaurin does not want to turn into Andre Johnson. And I get the whole thing about, they need parts or whatever, but there's a standstill going on right now. The Washington Commanders possibly could be coming to Virginia soon because there's a war between them and DC because they don't want to put the funding out to even have them another stadium in DC. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, that'd be unfathomable. Now, because of Daniel Snyder and some of his stuff, they don't even want those guys in DC. So I'm just saying right now, the franchise needs to get themselves together. And all they had to, Cody and James, all they had to do was wait till Friday for the Deshaun Watson situation.
That's all we talked about last week. They just had to give it a couple more days. All they had to do was 3 days, guys. That's all they had to do.
Watson wouldn't have accepted a trade to Washington.
He can't. I mean, at least on a personal
level. Who do they have to trade? Who do they have to trade for Deshaun Watson and picks? Because they've been screwing that up for years, giving them up for other people.
There you go. Go ahead and get rid of the picks since you can't make them, right?
No, they're all gone.
Gone where?
All the good ones are gone.
Washington still has their picks.
I will say, I think the only bad thing we've been saying is him going there would be kind of a PR nightmare with everything that's going on right now. That's the only bad thing right now for Washington on the name. James, go ahead before we.
You want Deshaun Watson with Dan Snyder with what they've been saying about him? I mean, come on.
All right, guys.
Come on, y'all. James, let James go. Let James go.
I mean, I'd say Drew's pointed it out several times here with Wentz and his ankles. I mean, you let 2 of your best offensive linemen this season get away, and you're talking about bringing in a quarterback that is often injured the past couple of years, but also has a double ankle injury. I mean, you just open them up to having it happen again by letting Sheriff and Flowers get away. I mean, you definitely have to retool the offensive line if you are the Commanders or whatever they want to be at this point before you can do anything else. I mean, if you're talking about bringing back Terry McLaurin, we got to see how he performs this year with Wentz because, like Rob said, McLaurin's probably looking to go. I mean, at this point, he's not really seen anything to where it's like, I don't want to be here long term. The organization hasn't offered him anything to be here long term. He hasn't had consistent quarterback play to be there long term. The system, nothing's fitting right now. I mean, it's a complete tire fire, and it's like a lot has got to be solved and figured out before the team can move forward in any sort of positive direction.
With the Terry thing, man, it's almost like real quick. It's just I can see like kind of like a Kirk Cousins situation going on there. Like he gets franchised once, maybe twice, and then he leaves, man. I don't see Terry resigning. I'm sorry.
You hate to see it happen.
I agree with that.
You know, you
Look at
third
the
round
situation.
greatness.
I mean, look at the situation with Cam Sims. They keep trapping that young man into just staying. Oh, he's just staying in Washington. I guarantee if somebody sent a 5th or 6th round pick for that guy, he would go somewhere and flourish. There is no reason why Cam Sims is not flourished in Washington. And why would Terry McLaurin want to?
He's had some really good moments there, and we've seen that over the years. And we could go days and days on here for football. Like, we still got so much more because there's still so many more free agents out here. So by the time we come back next week, I'm pretty sure on that end, we'll still be talking NFL free agency. Now, before we get off, we still got one more topic before we put out the fire segment. And this one, guess what? March Madness is here, ladies and gentlemen, and it is going to be a good one. I mean, to me, fellas, there's so much parity in the college basketball game right now. It could be anybody. Anybody could win this bad boy. So I'm very excited about that. Now, before I go and get you guys' pick, we do have a couple people on the network that put out their Final Four predictions. So I definitely want to make sure that they get a little love on that. First, we've got Lamont's Final Four right here. Lamont's got Ohio State, Duke, UCLA, and Iowa, the 5th seed coming out of the Midwest. Looking at this, he's got a 7, a 4, and a 5 seed, which could completely happen with the way college basketball is. He's got Duke winning it all. He's got Coach K going out on top, defeating Ohio State in the national championship game. In the next one that we have right here, that's what I want to do, Rob. We got Jay's. Jay's got Gonzaga winning it all at the 1 seed coming out the West. Arizona, Auburn, and Purdue. So he's got Gonzaga going against Auburn in the national championship, but Gonzaga finally gets that monkey off their back and gets the national championship. Now, I kind of did a precursor there on Rob's, but so Rob, I'll start with you here. Let's look at your Final Four. Rob's Final Four. Rob's got Davidson, Arizona, UCLA, and Iowa, with Davidson going to the national championship game. There's 27, I believe 27-5, 27-6 on the season, taking on a very good Arizona team that has had a really good season. So, Rob, I want to hear from you. Your Final Four, why you went this way, and why you have Arizona winning the national championship.
Arizona is a good team. They have a lot of experience on their basketball team. I think that their team has had a lot of togetherness over the last few years, and I think that them coming out of the Pac-12, a lot of people, especially here on the East Coast, have a lot of West Coast bias. They really haven't seen this team play. This team, like I said, they have size, they have length, they can dribble, they can do a lot of things that a lot of teams out there can't do. They're number one seed for a reason. They're one of the better teams in the country. And the reason I have Davidson there is because if you look at their schedule, you look at teams they've played, you look at some of the, I believe they played San Francisco, who's in the tournament. They played New Mexico State, who anybody knows New Mexico State historically, they're always tough in NCAA tournament, and they beat Alabama. They have to, their bracket to me is not that hard. I feel like they can beat Duke. They go through Texas A&M, but then I think they got to play Gonzaga. And then I really think that they have an opportunity to get to the national championship game. 27-6, always a tough team. They got a bunch of players who are averaging decent points, especially Hung Jung Lee. I believe he's averaging almost 15 points a game or more. They have a lot of good players. Iowa's always tough. Iowa's always has that physical. Let me say that. Iowa has a physical style of basketball that will challenge anybody in the NCAA tournament. And UCLA, man, I'm just waiting for them to break out. Again, the Pac-12 has so many good teams. And it wouldn't shock me if USC got to the Final Four. The Pac-12 is really loaded, and I think people are going to find that out here very quickly.
All right. Next one on the list here. Let's see. Next person we got on the list is Cody. So Cody has Arizona, Auburn, Kentucky, and Gonzaga. He's got Gonzaga going into the national championship game once again, but falling short to Auburn. And Cody, me and you kind of connected a little bit on this. We got half of the bracket, I believe, on ours. What were your thoughts on this one? Why did you go where you went on this final?
Man, look, to your point, man, this just seems like the year that, we could see a 6, 7, 8, 9 seed all in the Final Four together. And I almost kind of feel with how I picked it, I think I have 2 1s and 2 2s in there. I almost feel like I'm just wrong off the jump because that just seems too obvious. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's a little more thought that needs to go in this because this season has just been all over the place. But Auburn has been strong this year, but Gonzaga has been very strong as well. And I just see them coming for a crash course together in the national championship. And, I'm giving the edge to Auburn because of Jabari Smith, their power forward. He's averaging 17 points a game, about 8 to 9 rebounds a game, and a block. He very well could be the number 1 overall pick in this year's NBA draft. I feel like Auburn, it's their year. And this is going to sound a little weird as to why I possibly picked them too. But I just look at Alabama, the school, and I just look, their hearts got broken because one of their rivals, Georgia, ends up winning the national championship in college football. I mean, it only makes sense that another rival, Auburn, who's had a hell of a year, breaks Alabama's heart again this year, and they win the national championship in basketball. So I'm going with Auburn.
All right. Next one we got on the list, Drew. All right, so Drew, he's got Arizona. Everybody, the Arizona theme is thick. I just hope we don't jinx them and they lose in the second round. Arizona, Kansas, Kentucky, and Duke, with Kansas battling Duke. That'd be an old school classic right there. That's got a 90, 95, 94 feel to it. Kansas and Duke in the national championship game with Duke sending Coach K out on top. Now, Drew, what are your thoughts here? Why? And you got Coach K finishing up the dream, huh?
With you saying the old school, like back in the 90s, that's what I was kind of feeling as I was going my way through the bracket on this one. With Coach K, this being his final tournament run, he's about to give it, hang him up at the end of this season. I just feel like, the momentum's going for him. That 28-6 is their record or whatnot. Kansas 28-6 as well. Duke is averaging 80 points a game. Kansas averaging 78. So I feel like if it does get down to this, it's going to be a very close matchup, probably 2 to 3 point contest at the end. But I feel like that it could be an 80-78 game, like the stats have predicted. They both have a very close record with 28-6. We could be seeing, some back in the day stuff with that, but I feel like Coach K should be going out on top on this one.
All right. See, that's my thing. Like, I'll get to mine in a minute. James. All right, so let's look. James has went with Cody here. So Gonzaga winning it all, getting the chip, taking on Wisconsin. Very sneaky pick. The Badgers there in a very tough Big Ten, the UCLA and Arizona. So Arizona getting a lot of love on this. Gonzaga getting a lot of love. UCLA's got a couple in here. So James, what are your thoughts here? Gonzaga, Mark Few finally gets the chip. Is that what you're telling me here? He finally gets the chip.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking, man. I mean, Gonzaga's been here before, number 1 overall seed 2 years in a row. I feel like this might be the year where things finally come together. They use that past experience. Mark Few uses his past year's experience to actually get that team all the way over the top. They have a viable number 1 overall pick on their roster and Chet Holmgren. I feel like this might be the year they're finally able to get it done, man. They have a lot, it's going to be tough. I mean, with the tournament, you never know. One team's feeling hot one day and they could, wreck shop. That's why I had Wisconsin going. I was like, what's that one team where maybe, they have a chance, a shot in the dark? And for me, I went with Wisconsin, man, because you just never know. But I also wouldn't be surprised. We saw a lot of Duke love. Me personally, I don't think the team has enough to go all the way this year. I mean, they couldn't even get past Virginia Tech in the ACC tournament. It's not looked good for them at times this year. I feel like that kind of factored to my decisions as well. But I definitely feel like Gonzaga gets it done this year.
See, that's the thing, all right, so I wanted to go with Gonzaga, but I just couldn't do it. And I think I kind of different on a little bit of opinion here on some people's. I got Arizona. I really wanted to put Arizona in the national championship game, but I'm really high on Auburn, and I really want to see if they can pull this bad boy off. And I'm hoping that Jabari Smith can channel his inner Chris Porter for those like old school NCAA fans out there. Chris Porter was my guy when Auburn made that run like in the early like 2000s and late 90s. It was one of the two, I can't remember. But I got Duke, Arizona, Baylor, the defending national champion, somehow sneaking their way back in, and I got Auburn beating Duke in the national championship game. So, for me, it was. I just got a good feeling that it's going to be a good one. I think watching Coach K this year, it's been really rough because, you watch Coach K and he's lost some heartbreakers. They've been really like the games that he's lost, like all the games you think he's going to win on his farewell tour. He hasn't. The UNC game, he's supposed to win this game, and he's losing games you wouldn't think. I mean, they're still good, don't get me wrong, but I got a feeling, something in my vibe says it's going to happen in that national championship game. They're going to get there. And he goes out, unfortunately, not the way a lot of people would like to see him go out. Rob?
Everybody knows I grew up a North Carolina fan, but this has nothing to do with that because of the fact that I keep it real. When Duke is Duke, I've had them in the national championship game plenty of times. There's no bias here. But I just don't understand. Like this is the thing, folks. Emotions will get you killed. They'll also get you knocked out of the basketball game. Coach K and Duke are just not that this year, okay? I know there are a lot of emotions going into this. I know there are a lot of people, we want Coach K to go out on top. And a lot of people wanted Chris Paul to win a championship, and he did, all right? Sometimes things don't go as planned. These farewell tours, as I've seen with Kobe and Derek Jeter. I mean, Kobe had 60 on his last night, which was great. But I'm just talking about overall the season wasn't good. Duke's had a pretty decent season. But, folks, we also have to understand that in the middle of the season, we weren't projecting many ACC teams to get into the tournament, right? Cody, you're a Duke fan. When you watch them play Syracuse in the tournament, I know you were worried because I was just like, what the hell are they doing against Syracuse? And then to go out against Virginia Tech, who Tech's a decent team, but come on. I mean, the ACC is down, folks. I know it's rare territory, but the ACC is just down, and they're not one of the better conferences this year. And I think that Duke is going to probably go out in the second or third round. And if they're not careful, they could go out in the first round. Just watch the first round game. If they're not careful, they could screw up in the first round. We've seen it. We've seen a Virginia team we've seen a damn good Virginia team lose in the first round as a 1 seed.
Yeah. Bad memories. Cody, what would you about to say?
I was just going to say, Rob, I agree with you on the Duke thing. I mean, they started the season off great. I think they beat Gonzaga early on, but they just, I don't know. It seems like once winter break hit for the kids, man, things got different for Duke. The whole ACC tournament, they were up against the ropes against Syracuse. Obviously, they lost to Virginia Tech. I believe in my bracket, I have them getting bounced, and I want to say it's the Elite Eight, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, I would not be surprised if Duke got bounced earlier. It's just they've been so inconsistent this year.
If they got to play Davis in the second round, that is a tough game. And as I said, you guys, if Davidson somehow does get to the Final Four national championship game, people around the country will call that a Cinderella. But you and I both know Darrell, Cody, Drew, and James, who we've covered the A-10. It is not a Cinderella story, not whatsoever.
Not at all. I mean, they probably would have, like, VCU got out. If VCU would have beat Richmond, they probably would have made this. They probably would have made the tournament. But Richmond had a nice little run, man. And with all those super seniors that they got on their team, there's no reason why Richmond, should not have won that. Won the A-10. They did a really good job. I'm intrigued. I do have Richmond winning one game. I think they're going to sneak one, at least one. So I'm intrigued on that. Now let's go over the women's. Before we put out the fire, Cody, who do you have in your women's Final Four?
Let me get it pulled up real quick. I had it written down and I forgot. Apologize. No, so for the women, I have Final Four Michigan versus South Carolina and Stanford versus UConn in the Final Four. And I have Stanford beating Michigan in the championship game. Again, I feel like this is going to be a year, like we said with the men's basketball tournament, how, it's just so much going on. I feel like it's going to be the same way in the women's tournament as well. So that's what I have.
James, who do you have in your women's Final Four?
Oh, not gonna lie, I don't think I did a women's bracket this year, but if I had to pick a winner for it all, I'm gonna go with UConn, man. I mean, I do know they dominate the sport when it comes to women's basketball. Gino Auriemma, to my knowledge, is still there. I'm gonna take UConn.
He takes UConn. All right, so we did get a couple graphics in for the women here. So Drew, I'm gonna let you go first. All right, so Drew's got Stanford, South Carolina, still UConn going to the Final Four, and he's got Stanford losing to South Carolina. Drew, your thoughts on your women's Final Four?
This was really, really hard because I got to go with James, man. He didn't do it, but I kind of just threw this one together because I really haven't. We got to be honest. I've really done too much homework with the women's basketball this season, but it was tough because I mean, like James said with UConn, I felt like they deserved to be in the Final Four. So with breaking it down and crunching numbers and stuff like that, I basically just went based off numbers. That's why I picked South Carolina to win this one.
All right. Now next one we got Robb. Now Robb, this might be good. Yeah, this is Robb's. Okay, we got Robb's up here. Robb's got South Carolina, Texas, North Carolina State, and Louisville. Robb, me and yours is almost identical here. But you got Texas, you got South Carolina with Don Staley and the crew. Louisville has been dominant, throughout the season. I got a chance to see North Carolina State play against Virginia, which they dominated that contest. Who do you have here? Well, obviously you got South Carolina winning. You got North Carolina State in the thing. But tell me your thoughts on the contest.
Well, all these teams can play inside. That's one thing I know about these teams. These teams can play inside. Very physical teams. When I look at a team, when I have South Carolina against Louisville, Louisville always comes out tough. They always have shooting. They're always scrappy. Texas, again, one of those scrappy, hard teams from the Big 12. NC State always plays hard basketball. They've given a lot of teams like UConn, like South Carolina fits. However, let me say this, and I think this is a very important point. South Carolina losing to Kentucky in the SEC championship game is going to propel this team. You don't want to see South Carolina. Don Staley is going to have those girls ready. And let me say this real quick. Don Staley, to me, should be coaching at a men's program or even in the NBA. I keep hearing about Becky Hammond this, Becky Hammond that. What the hell has Becky Hammond done that Don Staley hasn't done? Okay? I just want to put that out there because I want to give Miss Don Staley her credit. The gold medalist, the overall one of the great players we've ever seen, and coaches in the women's game. But South Carolina is a focused team. South Carolina is a team that you're going to have to deal with. So I'll give it to South Carolina.
All right. So this is my bracket. We'll swing over to my bracket real quick. I don't know where the echo comes from. Oh, shucks. Wait a minute.
Yours is on the route. See yours.
All right. So I'm going to try not to echo too much here. I don't know where it's coming from. Anyway, all right. So we got South Carolina, Texas, Baylor, and NC State. I got NC State losing to South Carolina. Now, I got a chance to see this NC State team play. And they've got a young lady on this team who is extremely talented, and Alyssa Canoe. She's one of the best players in the country. She's probably going to get recognition for being one of the potentially winning the player of the year. But I got South Carolina and Don Staley. I don't know why I'm doing this.
Darrell, how many points do you think South Carolina's going to win their first round game by, especially coming off their loss to Kentucky? I'm saying by at least 60.
I was going to say 57. I was gonna say 57. But yeah,
I love UConn, and they got their best player back. Brockers. It was Brockers. I can't never get him right. Brockers. Paige Brockers. They got Paige Brockers back. But like I said, I just think UConn is going through a phase right now where they're going to have to get back to their dominant state. I'm hoping Tennessee can do something because of just how good that program is. But like I said, right now, I'm just gonna have to say South Carolina. I think Connecticut more of a next year.
All right. So there it is, y'all. Final 4 picks. Very excited to see how everything turns out here. Now you already know what time it is. It is time for
Fire, 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 burn on. Fire, 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 burn on. Fire, 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 legacy on fire.
I was trying to figure out why I'm echoing y'all, but I couldn't even get stopped. Okay. All right. All right, y'all. It's time to put out the fire here. And we're going to start this one with Cody. Put out
Hey. All right, listen, man. Listen. Jacksonville Jaguars, why are you out here messing up the market when it comes to wide receivers? I know that when it comes to the Jacksonville Jaguars and their franchise, outside of that year that they had in 2017 where they went to the AFC Championship game, this franchise has been absolutely horrible. So I do understand to an extent you need to overpay for some players, but given Christian Kirk basically $18 million a year to play wide receiver. And if I'm not mistaken, that puts Christian Kirk in the top 10 as far as contracts go for a wide receiver. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this has really messed up the market because when you look at it, when you have guys like a Tyreek Hill, like a Devontae Adams, top 5-10 receivers in this league, these guys are now going to be wanting $27 million a year, $28 million a year. I mean, we're starting to get into like quarterback numbers now when it comes to these wide receivers. It's just messed the whole market up. And when you look at it, don't get me wrong. I believe in Christian Kirk. I really do. But when you look at the production that he's had in Arizona, he's never topped over 1,000 yards. And yes, you can bring up the argument, well, he's never been their number one receiver because of all the talent that they have, like a Larry Fitzgerald, like a DeAndre Hopkins. I get that. But at the same time, those receivers that were on the field with Kirk should take away a lot of the pressure for him. So now he's going to be going to Jacksonville as a possible number one receiver. And I say possible because they have Marvin Jones Jr. down there, who's a very good receiver as well. But I just don't think that the production that he's going to be able to put up in Jacksonville is going to mirror what his contract was that he got this free agency period.
Cody, don't forget that they also added an extra giant.
We ain't worried about that. All right? He's good for about 3 drops a game, all right?
Hey, they still have Chenault too. They still have Chenault too, the other wide receiver they had last year.
I heard he's on the trade block.
Yeah, they're talking about trading.
I kind of like him though. He was good for fantasy.
All right, so I think I figured out where the echo's coming from. So, Rob, I'm going to let you go first because the echo is coming. When I cut yours off, that's when the echo kicks in. So here we go. Rob, 3, 2, 1. Whenever you're ready, Rob.
Can you hear me? All righty. So 346 and 180. That is the record of a coach, right? Again, 346 and 180. This coach makes $1.2 million a year. This coach also won 176 of his games at Randolph-Macon. This coach also has been to the NCAA tournament once. He went a second time, but because I believe they said it was his fault or whoever's fault it was, the team had to forfeit an NCAA game, which is embarrassing. This coach always has the talent. This coach always has the ability to get good talent. This team did not make the NCAA tournament this year. This team lost to a crosstown rival in embarrassing fashion. They lost a game by 30 points to another rival. This team, who I talk about, should have done what I said a few years ago and gone after Rick Pitino. I'm talking about the VCU Rams. And I like Coach Mike. I like Coach Mike Rhodes. I really do. But can we all agree that VCU has underachieved, folks? And let me say this. Next year is critical for the VCU program. Also, this NIT is critical for VCU. They've got to come out and win this thing. And next year, when they have guys like Hassan Ward, they've got They got Ace coming back. You know, they've got a lot of good players on that team next year. Yes, they lose Vince and they lose maybe one more senior, but they have a hell of a team coming back next year. The city of Richmond, the Richmond Spiders, I said fire your coach because you were underachieving. They finally did something. In this area, for some reason, mediocrity is good. Okay? And I just don't understand why there's not more pressure. When you listen, guys, when you go to Richmond University, you don't see a big sign that says Richmond Spiders. When you come across the bridge, when you're going past Henrico into Richmond, what do you see? You see a big ass VCU sign with VCU everywhere. VCU is the representation of this area. And for them to continue to be mediocre like this is unacceptable. But if that's what they want to do, fine.
Yeah,
that's why I put out the fire. Thank you.
Yeah, I will say that's Rob. Adding on to what you said there, they have a young man coming from Delaware. They've been able to get really, really good talent from Delaware. Bones Highland to be an example of that. They got a young man coming from Delaware this year that's supposed to be really good next year. So here's the thing, you know, I agree with Rob here. You know, if you're Coach Rhodes, man, you've had some really good highs and you've had some really low lows. We'll see what happens with VCU in the next year. Next one we got on here, we got Mr. Drew Willingham. It's time for you, sir, to put out the fire.
I'm so sorry, Darrell. Aaron Rodgers. Why? Why did you take all that money, man? I know you're trying to get paid. You're trying to be one of the most expensive quarterbacks in the NFL, but you were preaching to so many people back in the day about taking the money, and it was crippling the team. You were holding this little championship belt up at one time in 2010 when you were celebrating that ship with your teammates. Don't think you're going to be getting it now at $50 million, my man. Even if you would have had it on the back end of the deal where you're getting paid 10, 15 years from now, like what, Cliff Floyd or whatnot from the Met. I know Bobby Bonilla. Bobby Bonilla Day is what we have once a year where he gets paid. Maybe there's an Aaron Rodgers Day where he's getting paid once a year for 30 years like he did. I doubt it because you just crippled your team. You are not getting another ship. I'm sorry, Terrell. I had to. $50 million, ridiculous to sling a rock around a field. What is going on with these people? That's my fire.
All right, first of all, leave my guys alone. Secondly, no, for real though, you know, the whole Aaron Rodgers situation is gonna be crazy because, you know, he got the money. He took less money this year to sign guys back, and I won't even say I put out the fire, but what I'm excited about is we did bring Campbell back. Thank you, Green Bay, for getting Campbell back in there. Hated to lose Z, you know, but we got Preston Smith, who was coming off one of his best seasons. Rashawn Gray starting to play well. So I like what I see there, but it ain't enough. Here's the problem. Like I posted on Twitter today. I'm a Packers fan, you know, knowing that free agency is out of the question. It's all about the draft at this point for this guy. It's all about the draft. That's what I'm saying. That's why. And then James put out the fire, sir. You didn't put out the James put out the fire.
I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the whole Deshaun Watson to Atlanta thing. Not gonna lie, when I first heard it come across the waiver wires, I was thinking, this is just a ploy. This isn't really gonna happen. I feel like this was just something that Atlanta got involved in to kind of drive up the trade market from Carolina and New Orleans. But now it seems this thing may have legs. There's been speculation and reports that Watson actually reached out to the Falcons. He made that first line of contact, and that apparently he may have actually met in Atlanta versus the teams who came to Houston to see him. That was one report that's floating around. If this is possible for Deshaun Watson to come home to the Atlanta Falcons, of course, I'm all for it. I'd love for it to happen. But you got to keep some realism here. And I'm going to say we need to pump the brakes a little bit because we'd have to see, one, what's going to be that compensation? What are you going to have to give up for him? We know it's probably going to be at least 2 to 3 first-round picks, if not more. We're hearing possibly players being added, maybe like a Kyle Pitts or A.J. Terrell or Grady Jarrett. Those are the top 3 players you probably do have on your roster. More than likely, you'd like to try to keep Pitts and Terrell as their younger guys for your team, not to mention that you've already lost almost every wide receiver who played for you last season. So for Pitts to walk out the door next, that would be catastrophic for this offense if Watson were to come. But then on top of that, we don't know if he's going to be suspended or not either. While he is no longer facing criminal charges from these 22 cases, the league still may step in and say, hey, we still need you to sit down for an odd number of games just to, you got to serve some time here. We know you sat out last season, but we need you to sit down again. We don't know what that's going to look like. We don't know what the ramifications of that going to be. But then you have to take into the aspect, too. You have another quarterback on your roster, Matt Ryan, who makes a hefty amount of money. Now, if Watson is suspended, maybe you do keep Ryan on the roster this year, and that Watson contract tolls and doesn't count against the cap, and you're able to keep him for another season, or maybe he does move on. I would definitely think Watson to Atlanta is an upgrade, but let's pump the brakes a little bit to see, one, does he want to be here? Is he going to choose us? If he can possibly find a way to make us his premier destination, deny everybody else, maybe that gives Atlanta some of that, some leverage here to maybe push back against what they originally offered the Texans. Because I would love to have Watson, but I don't want to have to give up the franchise just to get him, to watch him suffer the way he did in Houston for the first 3-4 years. I mean, I would love for him to come, but don't give away the franchise to do it. Looks like Cody has a question. Cody and then Rob.
I like
Listen,
that one.
I thought about this. I really sat down and thought about this and looked at the landscape of everything when it comes to all these different teams involved. I really do think Desean goes to the Falcons. And I think y'all are going to call me crazy. I get it because we rarely see anything like this happen. But I really think we're about to see like a 3 or 4 team trade happen that is centered around Deshaun Watson. And I think how it's going to work, which is actually going to be beneficial to the Atlanta Falcons because of the different parties involved. I think you're going to see Matt Ryan, or we'll start with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, obviously, to Atlanta, right? We're going to see Matt Ryan get moved to the Cleveland Browns. We're going to see Baker Mayfield get moved to the Indianapolis Colts. And what they're going to give up, which is going to be beneficial for the Atlanta Falcons, is that the Falcons are going to give up about 2 or 3 first-round picks and a couple second-round picks, but you're going to be able to take picks from Cleveland and from Indianapolis and send those to Houston as well to make the pot even bigger. Will Atlanta probably have to give up some sort of compensation as far as a player goes? Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be a Kyle Pitts, and I don't think it's going to be an A.J. Terrell.
Interesting. Rob.
I don't understand, James Brown, your premise. I understand you don't want to give up the franchise. And I got that, and I understand that. But you're talking about a guy, and I know he probably may face suspension. Ben Roethlisberger had one, and you had Ezekiel Elliott who had one, 6 games for both players from these type of issues or whatnot. But you're talking about a player who had 4,800 yards. Who did he have to throw to in Houston? Remember, this is after DeAndre Hopkins is gone. And just remember, they're up 24-0 on the Kansas City Chiefs if their head coach doesn't screw up and doesn't start calling a horrible game. I'll say it to you like this. The Atlanta Falcons weren't horrible last year. You put one thing I would not do is give up Kyle Pitts because I think that could be a dynamic duo, and I think they can find ways to work around that. But you put Deshaun Watson in Atlanta, you don't know how long Tom Brady really has left. You don't know if Tampa's going to really be the same team next year. You're looking at the Saints who don't have a quarterback right now. The Carolina Panthers, their coach is way, way overdone to be gone. I mean, he should have been done this past season. I mean, that is a joke what's going on in Carolina, all right? You put Deshaun Watson in Atlanta, you plug in some players. That's how good he is. Let me tell you something, guys. Clemson was a good program before Deshaun Watson. They went to greatness. Why do you think Clemson is where they are now? Deshaun Watson makes teams great. The Houston Texans were not the best organization to watch. He made them watchable. He's tough. He makes plays. He can actually throw the damn ball. When he loses his athleticism, it's not going to hurt him. You're not going to be able to say, oh, he lost the athleticism. He cannot want to throw the ball. You put him in Atlanta, I guarantee you in the next 2-3 years, they're possible Super Bowl contenders. I guarantee it. So you give up first-round picks. if you can afford it, because you cannot come across guys like that all the time. Be smarter than some other teams who can't wait 3 days just to see if a guy gets charges dropped against him.
Look, before we get out of here, because we're getting close to the end, and I'm gonna give everybody a chance to speak at the end here. Real quick, some Giants news. Ricky Seals-Jones is signing with the New York Giants to replace Evan Ingram. So that's a really good sign there, because I know Drew's not thrilled about that, because every little player that had some really good part of the season last year is almost on their way out. So with that being said, before we get out of here, I'm going to give one more chance around the horn, everybody, to, no pun intended, to give their thoughts and anything they want to say before they get out of here. So, Drew, I know you're probably amped up after that news. Drew, I'll let you go first.
I want to go back. Actually, I was going to ignore that part, but I'm going to go back to what we were talking about before that. I really like Cody's concept of the 3-team trade, because like he said, we haven't really seen that before in NFL. It's mainly common, like, with NBA and stuff like that. But, I think that this could be a really big blockbuster trade for multiple teams involved. And, the Russell Wilson trade was a big example of what we could see for this, because they're going to have to give up a little bit more, because Deshaun Watson's a little bit younger and has, a lot more higher of a ceiling, I feel like, than, Russell does now. Russell can still probably get another championship or so, but he's on the tail end of his career in Denver, kind of like how Peyton Manning was, not quite at that point in the later part, neck surgeries and stuff like that are holding him back. He can still get it done, but I feel like you've got a lot more time ahead with Deshaun Watson, and with everything Rob said about his greatness and everything. That's what I want to leave off on this is basically, I feel like that'd be great for all teams involved if they did that.
All right. Rob, what you got to say before we get out of here?
Ladies and gentlemen, there's one thing that I forgot to talk about, and I think this is a very critical thing. A lot of people may look at this screen, may look at me like I'm crazy. They may say, oh, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But there is a quarterback who got signed, right? Everywhere he's been, the quarterback that replaced him eventually after he got hurt, they played pretty damn good. I'm talking about Baker Mayfield in his first season, played pretty well. Justin Herbert. Even, Mullins this past year for Houston? Named Mullins, right?
Davis Mills. Davis Mills.
Davis
Mills.
Sorry. Yeah, Davis Mills. I'm sorry about that. I'd like to apologize to the crowd there. I'm sorry. I had a brain fart. I'm sorry. Let me say this. Do I think this move is going to take this team to the playoffs? To the Super Bowl? No. But I think in my heart of hearts, and you all going to call me crazy, I think Tyrod Taylor could take the Giants to the playoffs. I think Tyrod Taylor going to the Giants is one of the more significant moves. Because he has leadership, ladies and gentlemen. And leadership is something that he can bring to that locker room. And I believe that he's also been under Brian Daboll in Buffalo, I believe. So he's going to make Daniel Jones actually work to be a quarterback. Also, Tyrod Taylor is really good with the RPO. Not saying Daniel Jones is not. But if Saquon Barkley can't benefit off of Tyrod Taylor, his time would definitely be done in New York. But I think that one of the more underrated moves is Tyrod Taylor going to the Giants. I think that's going to have ramifications for a long time.
Awesome. James, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on Rob and Cody's take as far as Atlanta and Watson. I do like the idea of the multi-team trade, because I feel like that could kind of help with Rob's vision of getting those extra picks to kind of help build that roster around Watson in Atlanta. We know, like you said, we'd have to give up those first-round picks, possibly second-round picks. If you can get some mid-round picks back, third, fourth-round picks, maybe you can use those to help fill out that roster. This is a roster that definitely needs help on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. If we can get that done, I'm all for it. I also love Rob's vision of us possibly winning the Super Bowl in the next 2 to 3 years. I will definitely take that, seeing as how we won one and lost one in the same game. I'll never know if I'll get over that or not. But, I like the vision. Also, I got to agree with Rob, too, on the whole VCU take. The Rams are the toes of the town, and yet we can never really seem to make that one move to kind of get us over the top. It never seems like VCU is able to really attract top players, even here in the state. Look at how many guys leave the state of Virginia to play college basketball elsewhere when you have a top program in your own hometown. I don't know if it's going to take a coaching change, AD change. Something's got to be done here because when the Rams are good, the city turns out and the city shows up. So if
Cody,
we get that thing turned around, everything will jump back off downtown. Siegel's going to be rocking again.
Before we get out of here,
Hey, just want to say another productive day with the fellas. All right, that's really all I got to say, man. I love it.
All right, everybody. Look, I'm your man, Darrell Lawrence. We got Cody Stewart. We got James Brown. We got Robb Johnson. We got our man, Drew Willingham. Thank you for tuning in for episode 26 of Legacy on Fire. The plan is to be back next week for another episode. We'll see how things go and to see if the computer can act right because I had to switch because my computer cut off in the middle of the show and I had to switch to my phone. So hopefully we can get everything straight by next week. Once again, everybody, I'm your man, Darrell Lawrence, and this has been Legacy on Fire. Cody, Robb, Drew, James, thank you all again, fellas. Until next time.